give you welcome. My name is Dr. Pete Moore. I'm the president of the Atlantic Cape Community College, and I will tell you that we are very proud here at Atlantic Cape to host a significant part of the Action Now project, including, of course, today's event and another event this evening, more open to the public. I would just say that when I have an audience, I'll be very brief, Howard, but I have to take my opportunity to just note the role of community colleges here in this project, not just hosting. We play a serious role in workforce development. And I'll just mention one metric that I think is sometimes people that are not involved with community colleges are not maybe not as aware as they might be. So give me just a minute or two. There's 1,100 community colleges throughout this country. We represent half of all students in undergraduate education are in community colleges, including students that tend to come from lower income families. We are truly the pathway. We offer a 2-year degree called an associate degree, and that generally is transferred to a 4-year college for the bachelor's. That's the primary mission in a nutshell. So half of all the students that are undergraduate education, the first 4 years of college, are in community colleges. That's true for this state of New Jersey. As a matter of fact, there's 240,000 students per year that are in community colleges in New Jersey for the undergraduate program. This gives you one point. Second point, more to the issue here of the economic development. I understand how that works to a degree. A little knowledge, sometimes dangerous, but I have a little. But I do know that in addition to the big factors that are involved, also workforce training comes in there as a factor for expansion and retention of our business community. We provide that. In the community colleges in addition to the 240,000 in New Jersey that are in academic programs, 160,000 are in non-credit workforce training programs or customized training programs. So we're working with 400,000 students in these 19 community colleges, most of which are an associate degree, but a large proportion are in non-credit programs. These are below the associate degree. It could be a 1-year degree, it could be not even a degree, just a certificate reflecting some level of expertise. So that kind of flexibility, my closing comment, that kind of flexibility, and these community colleges were located in every county. We have 3 campuses here that are within 20-minute drive of every resident of these 2 counties, and they're fully accredited campuses. Here, Atlantic City, KMA Courthouse, the same is said throughout the state. We have a huge infrastructure here to deliver academic and workforce training. I'll leave that with you because that probably is not the topic for today, but eventually we'll talk about that. Anyway, I thank you for coming today on behalf of the Action Now project, and I would say that it's a proud moment for Atlantic Cape, which we call the Communities College, which we are, to host this. It's now my honor to introduce Howard Kyle, who's representing, make sure I have the right words here, Howard, representing our county executive, Denny Levinson. Howard is the chief of staff for Denny Levinson at the County of Atlantic. Howard?
Thank you. I'm Howard Kyle. I'm here on behalf of County Executive Dennis Levinson, who is intended to be here this morning, but due to the snow issue, he is out there at the Public Works Department right now. Let me just clarify what we're trying to accomplish today. This is just one component of an overall new approach to economic development. What we are trying to do in Atlantic County, in cooperation with the private sector, is to have a fundamentally different, more aggressive approach to how we do economic development. Traditionally, the way economic development has been done in Atlantic County, or actually in all of New Jersey, it's been top-down. It's been state-driven. It's come from the state down to the local level. And the difficulty that has produced is that there's lack of sustainability. Well, we did a survey with our Economic Development Advisory Commission. I think we have our chairman here, Rich Burley, is here today. And we started looking at this. We realized that every area of the country that is advancing economically had a regional approach to economic development that's based on a partnership and it's private sector driven and where they have control of the economic development agenda. That is the effort that we've put in place here in Atlantic County. We're in the early stages of doing that. As you may have read in the paper, we have retained the firm of Angelo Economics. Angelou is here today, he's observing. And we are in the process of developing an economic development action strategy. Key words on that are action and strategy. It's a long-term process to diversify the economy, to get past our traditional reliance on tourism, conventions, and gaming, and to actually start building new industries here in the areas where we have opportunities to build those new industries. So I know we have challenges in Atlantic County. I know that we have some obstacles we have to overcome, but there's one thing we also have. We have opportunity. And we're going to capitalize on that in the very near future. Tonight we're having a public hearing where we're soliciting public input as part of this process. We plan to have 3 public hearings as part of this Atlantic County Action Now strategy. The first one will be here tonight at 6 o'clock, between 6 and 8 if you would like to make it back, or if you know anyone else who might be interested in attending. We also have surveys online at the website, www.Atlantic County Action Now. We would encourage you to fill out those surveys at atlanticcountyactionnow.com. We need to get public input. We need the public to buy into this process. We need the public to be part of this because we need to make this thing sustainable and take it outside politics, right? Now, the event we have today also developed at our Atlantic County Economic Development Advisory Commission. It started when we brought down some representatives of the state who went over all these remarkable new economic development programs that they have in place. An individual today, Chris Sayre, who was one of the advocates at that meeting, pointed out that this would be very nice to present to other municipalities and through the Atlantic County Improvement Authority. We put this work together today to get economic development specialists, urban specialists, planners, and other professionals who work in these municipalities to come out and learn what's happening. We couldn't have asked for a better team to come down from the state. The team is led by Lauren Moore. Lauren Moore is the Executive Director of the New Jersey Business Action Center. A lot of you may know Lauren Moore. Lauren Moore worked for Atlantic County a number of years ago under County Executive Dick Squires. He was the department head of planning there, and he has an intimate familiarity with this area, and he has a commitment to the area. So with that, I'd like to begin today's program and call Lauren Moore. Lauren?
Thank you, Howard. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes,
if not, that'll certainly wake you up. Thanks for coming out. Thanks for braving the weather. I traveled down from Bordentown this morning. I live in Burlington County. There wasn't a flake in the sky. When I got to Hamilton, of course, the roads were, there's a whole different story. And usually it's the northern part of the state that we experience these kind of conditions. So thanks for coming out and thanks for braving the weather. Before we get started, I want to introduce the team that came down here today. Don Newman is the Director of Small Business Advocacy in the Lieutenant Governor's Business Action Center, and I'm going to explain the structure of the Business Action Center and our partnership. I have Jerry Sharpensberger, Dr. Sharpensberger, who is the Director of the Planning Advocacy Office. That was formerly the Office of Smart Growth, for those of you that remember the old Smart Growth days. Justin Kenyon is a Business Development Officer with the New Jersey Economic Development Authority. And you're going to hear from Justin about some of the key EDA programs today. And Chris Murphy from the Department of Labor. He is Chris, I just adjusted your title.
Manager of Statewide Strategic Initiatives.
Manager of Statewide Strategic Initiatives. Chris partners with the Business Action Center and EDA on almost every project we work on. Chris is an expert in Department of Labor programs, workforce programs, and you're going to hear Chris present on some of those programs. Okay. Howard, thanks for the introduction. Just quickly, I lived in Brigantine for quite some time when I worked down here in Atlantic County. It was a great experience. Atlantic County and its 23 towns. Some of my colleagues that I worked with, John Peterson, with his big smiles out in the audience, Max Slusher, another one with a big smile, and John Lamey. All people that I have a great relationship with and look forward to continuing to work with. One more introduction before we get started. Bill Geigerich. Bill Geigerich is a business advocate in the Business Action Center. Bill covers this region of the state. He covers Atlantic County. Some of you may remember Lloyd Oxford. Lloyd Oxford covered Atlantic County, but he recently retired, so we kind of shifted some of our responsibilities around, and Bill's now going to cover the county. So if you get a chance, please come over and say hi to Bill and introduce himself to you, because Anything that comes up that I work on, inevitably, Bill's going to get the assignment to work on it. Okay. What I wanted to do was, for everybody in the audience, before I do that, I want to get a show of hands. How many municipal leaders do we have? Municipal officials do we have? What town are you from? I'm sorry? Mullica Township.
That's not man.
Estelman.
Absecon.
Absecon.
Universal Township.
Univista Township. Is Mayor Shirella still the mayor there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Forever.
Forever. Make sure you tell them I was asking about them, okay? Where else do we have? Egg Harbor City. Boy, our old colleague Rick Dovey lives in Egg Harbor City, if I recall correctly.
Linwood.
Okay. What other towns do we have?
Egg Harbor Township.
Egg Harbor, Sonny McCullough, right?
That's not me.
No, he's still the mayor, right?
Still there, yeah.
Still the mayor. He's got those green eyes. I remember Sonny. Any other towns?
Hamilton.
Hamilton. Blueberry capital. Red, White, and Blueberry Festival. Still have that?
We do.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Developers? Got a developer. How about the business community? We have small, medium businesses here today? Okay, good, thank you. Just wanted to get an understanding of the mix of the crowd that we have, because I think we have something for everybody. And we're going to try to go through this as quickly as we can. I think we're scheduled to have questions at the end. I'm not quite sure if we want to do that as we go, but we can do questions at the end so we can get through it. And we wanted to try to get through this as quickly as possible to have more interaction with the crowd with Q&A at the end. So what I wanted to do real quickly here is, I've worked for 6 different administrations since I moved on from my Atlantic County days. And in those 6 different administrations, they all kind of had their own different approach to business and economic development. And the Christie Guadagno administration, they created the New Jersey Partnership for Action. We call it the PFA for short. Lieutenant Governor oversees all of our economic development activities. And if anybody's heard her speak, the one thing that always stands out, she gives her cell phone number to everybody. And they call 609-575-8111. So if you have any challenges or issues that you want to talk to the Lieutenant Governor about, please feel free to give her a call. Don't be surprised when she answers the phone. She oversees all of our economic development activities. The Business Action Center, I report directly to the Lieutenant Governor. The Business Action Center, I'm going to talk a little bit more about this, acts as a one-stop shop for the business community. So if there's anything you take away from this today, is you give us a call and we will connect you with the appropriate resources, and we do it in a warm and friendly handoff. Higher education. Dr. Rochelle Hendricks is the Secretary of Higher Ed. They're there to help develop relationships between the business community, the development community, and our higher ed system. This is something that's been very important under this administration, and something that we hear frequently from the business community that wants to work with our higher ed institutions. Choose New Jersey. Choose New Jersey is a 501c3. They are, it's the same as like the structure of a chamber, for example. They market New Jersey as a business destination. One of the things with the budget cuts, and I know that the governor was recently speaking, about the current budget environment in New Jersey, they market New Jersey as a business destination, and they use private sector dollars to do that. And they do it around the globe. So they do it outside of New Jersey, domestically, and they also do it internationally. And the New Jersey Economic Development Authority. I worked at the New Jersey Economic Development Authority for several years before we got pulled out and put into the Business Action Center to work directly for the Lieutenant Governor. And what you're going to hear from Justin today is the EDA houses 90% of the financing and grant programs that the business community engages on, and the other programs are with the Department of Labor. And you're going to hear from Chris on that. So this is the partnership. We meet on a weekly basis to talk about our strategy, to talk about the direction we're going in, and coordinate our resources. So at any given time when we're working on a project in New Jersey, I may pull in, depending on what your needs are, I may pull in resources from higher ed. resources from EDA, resources from Choose New Jersey, and resources from the Department of Labor, or any other department from DEP to transportation to make sure that we're servicing what your needs are. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Business Action Center structure to give you an idea how this works. We have an international trade office, so for small businesses that are in the audience, we right now have a federal grant to help you find markets internationally. And this is real money and real grant money to pay for trips overseas to help open up markets. We've assisted quite a few companies, over 50, 55 companies. Don's going to talk a little bit about this, I think, to give you a little bit more information on it. Planning advocacy for the planners in the office. This is where we coordinate resources with Department of Environmental Protection, DOT, to help communities put together sound business development, economic development plans, redevelopment opportunities as well. And I heard Howard talk a little bit about that, about community involvement on redevelopment, and Jerry's going to talk a little bit about that. We also have a call center. It's an 800 number. It's on all of our cards, as is our cell phone numbers. So if you need to get a hold of us, you need anything, you can call my cell phone, I'll answer it. If I don't, that means I'm probably with the Lieutenant Governor and don't want to get in trouble for taking a phone while I'm in conversation with him, but I'll call you right back. Or you can call our call center, which is an 800 number. We have 4 agents that are highly trained to answer all of your questions. The unit that, so our domestic business retention and attraction unit. This is one of our primary functions in the Business Action Center. We have 10 account executives that work directly with municipalities, counties, and businesses to help them understand what resources, services, and programs we can bring to bear to help with their project. And we are set up geographically throughout the state, as I introduced Bill Geigerich earlier. Of course, we take an account management approach. So once we engage municipality or county on a project, it's an account for life. We stay in touch on a regular basis with all of our accounts. At any given time, we have over 300 accounts that we're managing in this office. And what we do is, this is an important one right here. We're good listeners. Frequently I get the question of, hey, where's the free money? What kind of loan programs do you have? I said, well, hold on a minute here. Let's talk about this a little bit. Because we have over 60 or 70 different programs. And for us to run through all those programs gets confusing and takes a while. Our approach, our account management approach is that when we're working with you, we listen closely to what your project scope is and what your needs are. And then we take those needs and we match up all the services and the programs and resources that we have to help meet your business objectives, your municipal goals, your county goals, what the developers are trying to accomplish, and we put it in writing. We put it in writing in the form of what we call a written proposal. We do quite a few proposals to make sure that once we have a conversation with you, we get back to you in writing and we clearly articulate the value of the programs, we calculate the value of the incentives, we provide that to you, and we walk you through any process in connecting with those services, programs, and resources. And we've seen other states actually rip off our approach right down to the proposal, the letter that we provide in writing. Other states almost using the same exact format. So we like to think that imitation is the best form of flattery here. When I say we're on call 24/7, I mean it. We're available 24/7. As I said, our cell phones are on all of our business cards, and we answer our phones. Much to my wife's chagrin, I take call. We were just in Florida, just got back yesterday, and was working the whole time. She's like, what's going on here? It's just the way it is. It's either that or deal with 400 emails when you land. I talked a little bit about our proposal and our incentive package. And again, that's very key because we like to put in writing how we can help you. So you have it, and you have some mechanism where we can follow up with you to make sure we're delivering on what we said we were going to deliver on. As I mentioned earlier, our role, our goal is to attract, retain, and create jobs in New Jersey. That's what we do. And we match the resources up to accomplish that. But short-term projects, long-term projects, that's what we do. We do this in, I apologize, I keep pushing the wrong button. We do this in a couple of ways. One of the things that we do is permitting and regulatory assistance. This is where sometimes a company or a business developer doesn't need help with a particular incentive or a financing program, but they need help navigating the state's rules and regulations. We have contacts in all the commissioners' offices, from DEP to DCA, Department of Environmental Protection, Department of Community Affairs, Department of Transportation. We have contacts and we help with any kind of regulatory, we facilitate and we help move things along so that we can keep the economy rolling. We do a lot of advocacy work in my office, working with these different state agencies. We also have site selection services. I'm going to talk a little bit about this further. And this is something I'm going to talk a little bit about, is best practices with municipal and county. That's why I was asking about municipal officials in the office, because we really want to work closely with our local colleagues. One of the things that we've seen, and I think this is important, Howard touched on this in his opening remarks, and I'm glad to hear this. When we work with companies, they look across the table at us. They want to know that the municipality or the county that they're going in is going to work with them. That if, incentive packages are nice, but if they can't get through the planning board, they can't get their project approved, they can't get building code inspectors out there, they're going to move on. When we worked with a company called Amazon.com, the company did not take incentives. What was important for them is they had a build-to-suit project. They were going to be able to build 1.3 million square feet under roof and get it done in a 12-month period, and they were going to be able to work with the municipality. We had the mayor come in with his planning board director and his engineers and his land use attorney, have a conversation with the company. They made a site decision within 2 weeks. Very important of that kind of local cooperation, assistance, when they look across the table, that we're here to work with them. One of the things that we want to talk about, we get questions frequently from counties and municipalities. Well, we don't have incentives. We don't have financial programs. What can we do? I mean, this is all in the state, to work on these things. And we've put together a couple of thoughts here of what we've seen across the state, of what some municipalities and counties have done to work closely with attracting ratables, retaining ratables, and growing jobs. And some of them are as simple as going to a municipal website and knowing where's the entry point. That I want to come into town X, Y, and Z, but I don't know who to call. When I call the mayor's office, a lot of the mayors are part-time. Who can I talk to understand what the process is going to be to get a building permit to do a retro on Main Street? To put in a shop, to build space in a industrial park. They're looking for that kind of entry point for something as simple as, a website. And I heard Howard say this earlier about an economic development strategy. And this is something that Jerry and I talk about when we're working with municipalities and counties. within your municipal master plan, do you have an economic development strategy? Do you have an economic development plan? Are you engaged in having that conversation with the stakeholders in your community? And if you don't, you should really give some thought to creating, a simple one. And create real estate databases. This is one too that we see at the local level. We'll have companies come in and we'll say, hey, we're really interested in this part of the state. What kind of sites are available? What's available for us to go there? We subscribe to CoStar, which is a real estate database. That's not complete. So we encourage municipalities and counties to create a real estate database, maintain, this is your area, this is your town, you drive by these locations, develop a relationship with the local realtors and the brokers. We've seen municipalities hold monthly, quarterly meetings with all the real estate brokers, so that when they have clients that are coming in looking at property, they can say, I have a relationship with the local officials. And we shouldn't have problems getting permits and approvals, building code inspections, if you decide to locate here. These are the things that are on the minds of the developers and the business community when they're looking at certain sites. One of the other things that's important that we encourage our local colleagues to work on and to think about, we call this early warning signs. We're tracking lease expirations with the major employers that are in your area and your region. Many times, leases that are coming up in 2 or 3 years out, 4 years out, we see companies as small as 50 people. They're starting to look for alternative space 2 and 3 and 4 years out. Next thing you know, they're leaving, and by the time they announce they're leaving, it's too late for us to play catch up to convince them that they need to stay there. And this is where we look to our local colleagues to get us in shoulder to shoulder with our local colleagues to have a conversation with your major employers. Right down to 10, 15, 25 employees. We're glad to meet with them to make sure that they know we care and they understand what resources are available to keep them in that location and to grow in that location. But we need your help identifying who they are. I'm going to go through this fast about developing, I just talked about developing a business outreach plan, identifying who to reach out to, lease expirations, large employers, brand name companies, and meet with them, speak with them, contact them. Frequently, we'll work with a company, like, well, I hear from Pennsylvania all the time. And I hear from New York all the time. I hear from Connecticut. I hear from Delaware. They're calling our companies. States are calling our, when I was in Florida, I read a news article where the governor of Florida was in Pennsylvania, poaching Pennsylvania companies to come to Florida. And it's a company you all know, Wawa. Wawa set out to build 40 new stores in Florida. They ended up building 70 because of how the ease of going through the construction process, at least the way the news article read, and the governor was in Pennsylvania trying to court more companies to go to Florida. I talked about this earlier of real estate and developers. That's why I was asking about developers and landlords. We want to meet with you. We understand who your tenants are and how we can help you keep your tenants in the building. What resources and programs we have to keep your tenants, your paying tenants, in your building. Because we view those as jobs. So we have a mutual interest of how we can help you maintain your tenants, attract new tenants, and help those tenants grow, and what resources are available to do that. I can't emphasize this enough about developers. I know I've kind of gone over this a couple times with municipalities and counties having a relationship and identifying. We meet with developers across the state once a year in North, Central, and South, and we do it with the Brandywines of the world. We do it Liberty Trust, who develops down here as well in the southern part of the state, and we do it with the Jones Lang LaSalle's, the CBREs, the Cushman Wakefields, the Newmark Knight and Franks. We meet with all of them and their leadership and their executives on a regular basis so they know what programs are available for their customers, their clients that they're trying to place in space. The same ones that are looking to leave New Jersey, what we can do to keep them here. And that's an approach that we think also lends itself at the local level. Quickly on this comes up occasionally with county transportation associations. The last mile when we're attracting companies. Well, our workers got to, walk the last mile. Can you put a shuttle in place? We've worked with quite a few counties that actually put in the last mile shuttle. And I don't know if Jerry's going to talk about this. I did read his presentation where we worked with a Transportation Management Association and got a $250,000 grant from the feds to close the last mile to get the workers there where the New Jersey Transit bus stop ended. And I use that as an example to give you some ideas of, gee, I didn't think of that. You could help me with that. Yes, we can help you with that. This is just a quick shot of some of the companies that we've worked with over the years. Here, New Jersey we have quite a few corporate headquarters here in New Jersey. Real cool company, which is Mars. I'm sure we've all had their products. South Jersey company, Campbell's. We work with them quite a bit. Holtec is going into the South Jersey Port Corp and creating about 500-600 new positions. There. Burlington Coat Factory actually is in Burlington County with a new headquarters. So is Destination Attorney. A lot of these are South Jersey oriented companies here. Okay, that's just some thoughts. We're going to have Don Newman talk about some small business and some small business opportunities and programs and our approach to helping to assist small businesses. Don is pretty much a one-stop guy, one guy shop is what I meant to say. But if there's somebody that knows all the small business programs that are available and is responsive, to help, it's Don Newman. Don?
Thank you. Thank you again for coming here today and braving the weather. I'll be brief. I don't have too many slides to go through. But I want to talk about how critical small businesses are. Depending on your definition of small business, and I get that question a lot. How do you define a small business? The federal government defines a small business as less than 499 employees. So if you have 499 employees, most of us are not going to think you're a small business. But that means 98% of businesses in the state of New Jersey, according to the federal definition, would be considered a small business. So they're crucial to the economic vitality of the state. We don't get hung up on the definition. So we work closely with my colleagues in the domestic side of the Business Action Center, as well as our other partners, to best utilize our resources. So, you might end up working with me if you're a small business owner. You may end up working with the domestic side, depending on what your needs are. But if we were to take all the small businesses in the state of New Jersey and add just one employee, and the Lieutenant Governor loves this statistic, she uses it in all of her speeches when she talks about small business, we'd have full employment. So we're not as sexy as the domestic side. Lauren pointed out there are some companies here that are going to be creating 500 jobs. And that's going to end up in the newspaper. That's going to end up being talked about as a win. From my point of view, if I can get 200 small businesses to create 3 jobs, it's not going to end up in the paper. It's not going to get a lot of play. But that is equally important to job creation in New Jersey than these larger projects. You also have to understand that the vast majority of private sector employees work for small businesses. So it's really a crucial part of the economic scene in the state of New Jersey, as well as across the country. So what can we do for a small business? So, I get a question a lot when I talk to small businesses, and I talk to them about their needs. One of the things they always talk about is access to capital. I have a mantra that nobody knows their business better than the owner, so I don't always tell people that they don't know what they're talking about. But I got to tell you something. The vast majority of the people that tell me that they need access to capital really need counseling and mentoring services. It's probably the most important resource that we make available to a small business, especially an early stage business, because the small business owner has to wear many hats, and he can't be, or she can't be, an expert on all of the aspects of running that business. So you may have the baker who can really make a great cupcake, but doesn't know anything about marketing, finance, and so on. And they can't afford to hire a CFO or a marketing person or a IT person to run their websites. So it's important to have a resource that they can go to talk about all of the skills that they need to develop in order to be a successful business owner. And we have those resources. We support an organization called the Small Business Development Centers. They're run by the SBA, but they also receive funding from the Business Action Center. And they provide mentoring and training services. And then there's others. There is SCORE. There are some micro-lenders, which we'll talk about in a minute, that also provide training and mentoring services. But there's a perception about the SBDC, the Small Business Development Centers, that they're for startups. That you go in when you're starting a business, they help you put together a business plan, they wave goodbye and wish you good luck, and you go out the door. That's not true. They are really looking to work with the business throughout the entire life cycle of that business. And they'll help you, yes, develop that business plan. And that is a prime focus of theirs. If you don't have a business plan, they're going to make sure you do have it. I was at an event yesterday on redeveloping Main Streets, and it was for planners and economic development teams. And one of the questions was, how do you convince the small business, if you're trying to redevelop your Main Street and you have a store owner that wants to come in and lease one of the spaces in the Main Street, how do you make sure that they succeed? And again, it's make sure that they have an effective business plan. And the Small Business Development Center can do that. They don't charge for that service, for those consulting services. And they will work with you not only on that business plan, but then they will work with you on things like how do you manage your social media presence. Very important for a small business to understand how people now go to the website, go to Facebook, and look at your business presence there, as well as the negative reviews that you'll get on that business. So you need to learn how to deal with those kinds of issues. How do you market a small business? How do you take care of finances? How do I learn how to use QuickBooks? They can do that. Here, the Small Business Development Centers at Richard Stockton State College, they have a computer lab. They will do workshops on teaching QuickBooks, teaching office products, all of those things that maybe a small business owner who's a plumber or an electrician or a baker or running a daycare center isn't aware of. And they can help you do that. So I always spend a little extra time talking about these services because I find that they are the most helpful resource I can direct a business to, is to work with this resource providers that provide training and mentoring. SCORE, Small Business Development Center, microlenders like the UC, EDC, Intersect Fund, they all provide mentoring services. Some of the other things we can do is yes, finding financial resources. For small business, it's difficult. And there's not one silver bullet that's going to solve all of the financial problems for a small business. But If you can't get traditional financing, there are microlenders available. And microlenders are an interesting bunch. They're usually nonprofits. We work with several of them. UCEDC is a major one. There's also Intersect Fund and others. And I have financial resources that will loan as little as $500 to a small business. So if you're that landscaper that has all the equipment, just doesn't have the trailer to get you to your jobs, you can borrow $500 from a micro lender and buy your trailer so you can do that. Or they go up to $5 million as an SBA lender for purchasing of a building or equipment. So there's a wide variety of resources available to a qualified business. One mistake that small businesses tend to make is that they don't position themselves to be qualified for lending. And that goes back to to mentoring and training, to teach you how to keep your books. You know, an accountant may keep your tax returns so that you pay the least amount of taxes possible. Then when you go to get a loan and you show someone your tax returns, you say, wait a minute, you're not profitable. How can I loan you any money? It's not a profitable business. And that's because the priorities have to be, your priorities of what you're trying to accomplish in the long term have to be addressed. And they can help you with that with the mentoring services. So they'll get you qualified. They'll show you how you get qualified. We can also talk to you about, I want to skip a little bit down here, the guidance on how to position and compete for government contracts. Great way to expand your market is to become a government vendor. I know there's a lot of government officials here, and they probably all buy off the state contracts. So you really want to be able to position yourself if you want to go for that market. We can help you with that. We have some consultants that work through the Small Business Development Centers that can train you on that. There's also a PTAC Center, which is Procurement Technical Assistance Center. I'm very adapted to some of the things like getting certified as a small business enterprise. We set aside 25% of all of our state contracts, purchase order dollars. 25% of them for small business enterprises, certified small business enterprises. We can help you with that process on how to get certified. Permitting and regulatory services. Lauren talked before about the domestic team working with projects to try to get through the permitting and regulatory services. I do the same thing, only maybe on a smaller scale. The beauty parlor or salon or whatever you want to call it, that's trying to get their license and needs their inspection, and they're having trouble getting it scheduled. I spoke to someone earlier today about setting up an insurance company and how to get through the registration process to get yourself, to get the LLC set up and get tax numbers. So those are the kinds of things that we do on a regular basis. I also want to talk about the call center. Before I took over as Director of Small Business Advocacy, I ran the call center, so it still kind of falls under small business. We've talked to, since 2010, about 150,000 businesses. We've taken 150,000 calls. And that can be anything from somebody who's just sort of kicking the tires about starting a small business, all the way up to a small business that's having issues, even businesses that are in the tourism industry. We help out with our travel and tourism group. So the small business team has had more contact, I say, than to the business community than any other agency in the economic development team. Maybe taxation is the one that touches everybody a little bit more. But that's why the call center is so important. It's a great way to get a hold of us. You can get a hold of anybody in our organization through that call center. And one thing Lauren didn't mention, we talked about the 4 highly trained providers, call center agents that we have. We do have Spanish language capabilities on that line as well. Another great way for a small business to expand your market is exporting. Only 2% of the world's consumers live in the United States. So if you only stick with the domestic market, then you're going to give up 98% of the world's consumers, and that just doesn't make sense. So if you are a business owner that has the appropriate products or services that are primed for export, we can assist you. Yes, Lauren mentioned the STEP grant, and the STEP grant is a great tool that we have. It's a cash grant. It's one of the few that the Business Action Center administers themselves, and it will help you get to, for example, a trade show. But there's more services than that that our international team can assist you with. Advocacy services. I have a shipment that's sitting on a port in Singapore. I cannot get Singapore to release it. Can you help me? We can help you with that. I have a product. I sell, remote controls, and I'm looking for what company imports this product the most, so that I can go after that market. We can do that kind of market research for you. So there's a lot of resources that are available through our global in conjunction with the STEP grant, which can help you enter into that market. The program has been very successful. Lauren mentioned that we had 50-something businesses that we've assisted. We actually had 42 in 2010. They showed a significant increase in revenue. And if you are interested in finding more about the program, that's the website, but I don't expect you all to jot down that website. Just give a call to the call center, say you want to talk about the STEP program, and we'll be glad to help you with that. I just want to talk briefly about other kinds of resources that we have at our fingertips in the small business team. There are other businesses, there are other state agencies that provide small business resources. I do a program called the Resource for Growth, where I bring anywhere from a dozen to 16 different organizations that small businesses can talk to, hear from, and then talk to about their needs. And these are programs that most people aren't even aware of. I'm not going to go through them all because there's just too many to talk about. But a small business should reach out to us, have a conversation with me, tell me what their goals are, and then we can direct them. And I'm just going to name a couple. Direct install program under the BPU. The BPU, again, I'm not going to get into the details, but if you can upgrade some of your energy use equipment, your lighting, anything you use electricity or gas, and save some money by doing that, you become more efficient, the BPU will reimburse you up to 70% of the cost of that installation. Most people don't know about the program. It's called direct install. So there's an opportunity for someone who uses a lot of energy to get an audit, determine whether or not they are first comparable in the energy usage as other businesses, and then get the equipment upgraded through this direct install program and get their payback period cut down to a year, 18 months, because they've been able to leverage that resource. And by the way, there's a similar program for government entities as well. If you're a municipality, if you're town hall, you're looking to upgrade the lighting. So, again, it's not my area of expertise, but the BPU has some great programs. Your local library has some great resources for businesses, databases, research that they can do at the local library for free. So there's a whole variety of different resources that are available out there for small businesses. And my job is to connect your business community or the small businesses that I saw in the back to those resources. So feel free to call me at any time, talk to me about the business or direct your businesses from your community to me, and we'll be glad to try to connect them with some of those resources. Now I want to bring up Jerry Schaffenberg. He is our Director of Office of Planning Advocacy.
these newfangled machines. Anyway, thank you very much for having me, and certainly, as everybody else has mentioned, braving the elements. I drove down from Middletown to Monmouth County, and there was no snow, so I'm not used to going south and running into snow. Usually it's the other way around. As Lauren had mentioned, my office was once the Office of Smart Growth. Before that, it was the Office of State Planning. And when the Christie administration came in, they moved us out of DCA, changed the name to the somewhat unwieldy Office for Planning Advocacy, and you got a guy named Schaffenberger running it, so talk about two unwieldy names in a row. And we changed the focus from more of a housing focus to an economic development focus, and moving it into the Department of State, and it's worked out really well. So what I thought I would do is give you a little bit of an overview of the office and then get into one of the initiatives that we're currently really immersed in. And the Office for Planning Advocacy oversees the state plan, oversees the State Planning Commission. We do a lot of redevelopment work, a lot of brownfields remediation work, and mostly we deal with agencies, where we gather up agencies and really try and iron out obstacles to some sort of development that may be obstructing at the agency level. So we've been sort of retooling the whole mission of the office. One of the big initiatives that we have going on now is the Corporate Campus Project, and this is something we've been working on for several months. And it's no secret that across the state, there's been a rash of vacancies in corporate campuses all over, and mostly it's in central New Jersey and northern New Jersey, but there are a certain amount down here in the southern part that we've had our eyes on. And what we decided to do was to create an inventory of these vacant properties and see what our office can do to help repurpose them and get them reoccupied. I should also tell you too that I'm a local elected official up in Middletown. So I sort of see things through a different prism than just the state, some state talking head. But I understand what you folks are going through with the 2% cap and rising health insurance and dropping revenues and all that. These are things that we deal with at the local level, and when you have these properties that become vacant like that, the first thing that happens are commercial tax appeals and all the rest, and it's a vicious cycle. So what we did was we decided to inventory all of these, and we were able to get about, I think, 44 at present count. Unfortunately, it's something that always changes as more come on board. And instead of using the 400,000 square foot on 10-acre benchmark that the EOA uses, we lowered it to 250,000 square feet on 10 acres, which would allow us to include some properties in the southern part of the state. And now, John, you know what's coming because you've heard this before, but we had 4 regional meetings in December, and one was down here in Atlantic County, so I think a few of the folks here may have heard this discussion. But the reason I'm talking about this is because it's really something that encompasses everything we do, with transportation issues, workforce issues, and certainly the vacancy and redevelopment issues that we deal with. So today we have 44 properties, and we continue the county and municipal outreach. What we did, we assembled some case studies of success stories, and one of the problems that municipalities make is that they want to replace the one big entity that once occupied this property with another big entity, and it's just not going to happen. Certainly things have changed, trends have changed, the business models have changed, so we really have to look forward and be a little bit creative in the repurposing. So what we did, we assembled some of these buildings, an old Lucent property that Memorial Sloan Kettering took over, a former Bell Labs site that is now being redeveloped into a mixed-use site up in Homedale, the Sanofi Aventis campus, which is being subdivided for smaller companies, and Bear Healthcare, which was once also a Lucent site. This is the old Lucent site that is going to be, it's in the process of being refurbished to become a Memorial Sloan Kettering. Now, this took a little bit of fancy footwork because Sloan Kettering is a nonprofit. Not good news for a municipal official. But they also needed some rezoning, some zoning amendments to make it work. So the town worked out an agreement to have a pilot whereby they would pay the town $190,000 if in exchange for rezoning. So that worked out really well. It's going to bring about 600 very high-paying jobs. So that was an instance where one entity came into a property that was once occupied by another large entity. That's another shot of the Sloan Kettering, or the future Sloan Kettering property. These are the 5 principles of the Bell Labs property, which is located in Homedale, not too far. And this is something that Somerset Development is working on now. And certainly to enhance gradables, it's going to be a commercial property, so they will be paying property taxes and economic activity. Mitigate the impact on the surrounding community, a big farming community down there. Preserve a historic building. It's a register eligible building built in the 50s. And create a vibrant public place. Provide environmental and open space preservation all at the same time. That's the property. It's on 480 acres right off the parkway. And that's a before and after shot. That's actually what it looks like in the upper left-hand side. And the bottom right is the proposed, what we hope it's going to look like in about a year. This is the Bayer Healthcare headquarters up in Whippany. Again, we needed all levels of government, municipal, county, and state to make this work, with some rezoning, some upgrades to some of the infrastructure, and that was a huge home run where another big global headquarters came in and replaced a former communications company. This is the Sanofi site up in Bridgewater. A little bit different story here. This is going to be subdivided for small companies. Right now it's about 40% occupied by a real estate company, a small pharmaceutical company, a chemical company, and there are some leases in the offing for some more. So this is another way to deal with these, by subdividing. Another shot, and you can see some of the occupied areas, Ashland, Advanced Realty, and so on. This is the Merck property, and this is one of the ones that are just coming on board now. Merck is still there. There's about 500 people. They'll be out fairly soon. And it was funny, at one of the meetings that we had, I was giving this presentation up in Huntington, and the mayor from Reddington, where Merck is, I said, you know, I have an idea of a developer who asked me not to mention his name, who may want to come in here. And the mayor says to me, I think I know who it is. You left it on the screen. And she looked at the little Google symbol on the bottom and thought that was the company coming in. I wish, but it doesn't look like Google's going to be coming in anytime soon. That's another shot of the Merck property. Great building, very interesting, but just a horrible design for redevelopment. Sorry. And that's pretty much what our office does, is really redevelopment. We do a lot of brownfields work and try and get things regenerated through our office, and from the state level, certainly agency cooperation, and that's work with all levels of government, municipalities, counties, and certainly the state agencies. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Justin Kenyon.
Good morning. Thanks, Jerry. My name is Justin Kenyon. I'm a business development officer with the New Jersey Economic Development Authority, covering the southern portion of the state. And as Lauren had mentioned in his opening, the EDA is one of the prongs of attack as far as our economic development in the state of New Jersey. You'll sometimes hear the EDA referred to as the state's bank, because we do have financing programs along with some incentives that can actually help with projects come to fruition. So this morning I'm going to go over a couple of our lending programs pretty quickly. I don't specifically work in the finance area anymore, EDA, but I know the programs well enough to kind of gloss over them so you get an idea of what we can do in the financing arena. The EDA, when we first started over 40 years ago, we not only issued bonds, and we did some small lending programs. So before we got into the incentive game, we were primarily just assisting companies with financing. Our main program is our Premier Lender program. We have about 45 banks on our Premier Lender list. And And what that allows us to do is to partner with these banks by essentially buying a participation of a bank's note if they're having issues trying to bring credit on board. Banks like us because we do provide a subordinate position in collateral. So if you're looking to buy a building and you need the bank saying you need to put 40% equity in because they only do 60%, the EDA can come in behind the bank and fill in that gap versus you expending 40% equity or cash on your end. And our rates are usually below market. Right now they're between 2 to 4%, I would say, depending upon where you're located, the type of company you are, and the number of jobs you're going to create over a period of time. So that's our main lending program. It's the Premier Lender Program. Again, if you work with a bank already that's on that list, you can take advantage of that program. In this case, if you do go through this program, our approvals are done in-house versus going to our board, which meets once a month. The next program is our New Jersey Business Growth Fund, which is an exclusive partnership we have with PNC Bank. A number of years ago, PNC essentially parked a bunch of money with UDA and said, we'd like to partner with projects that come in. If they meet our credit underwriting criteria, can EDA provide guarantees to assist us with getting some of these difficult projects underway? A lot of times they're in distressed areas. Banks have sometimes problems underwriting projects in distressed areas because they don't have the value of the collateral. I'm not sure how successful they can be. So the EDA is essentially trying to assist in bringing those projects to market. Our next, this is a newer fund, is our Small Business Fund. Traditionally, we've only worked with banks. So you came to us and said, hey, the bank can do 60, we can do 40 at EDA. But we wouldn't normally do a loan strictly directly with the customer. This is a small business fund where we've noticed a lot of companies don't need $2 million, don't need $1 million, but they need maybe $300,000 for a piece of equipment, but they can't wait 2 months to get an answer from EDA. Usually you go to your local bank, you get an answer in a week or two. So EDA created this program where essentially we're doing a credit scoring on the principals of the company to allow the EDA to loan directly to a company or business looking to buy something pretty quickly, usually equipment. In this case, up to $500,000. Now we do also have a direct loan program. This is if you, for some reason, you can't get bank financing at all. You have to partner with the bank. If it meets a lot of our public purpose goals, which is creating good, strong jobs in a distressed area, the EDA can actually come in directly and finance the project as a whole, up to $2 million in certain areas. Again, if you have questions afterwards about the actual lending programs, I can assist you to a certain level. But if you got specifics, I'd like to bring in one of my colleagues that covers the South New Jersey market that does specific financing deals. I mentioned the EDA has done bond financing. We do issue taxes and bonds, primarily for manufacturers and for 501c3s. We can also do exempt facility bonds. We recently did a conduit bond issue for Atlantic City Sewerage, which we've done a number of deals for them over the years as they upgrade some of their sewage infrastructure. And the EDA essentially is a conduit. We don't actually have exposure on the actual the project. We're just able to issue the bonds so the borrower can take advantage of the tax exempt rate, which is usually 100 or 150 basis points below what their bank would normally lend them at as far as that rate concerned. So it can be a little expensive at times to go through the tax exempt bond process, but EDA can issue tax exempt bonds if you are a manufacturer or you are a 501c3. I would definitely ask the question before you go to close on a conventional piece of debt. There's a couple of examples, I guess locally, that where the EDA has assisted. It's not always in the paper you read about EDA being involved in giant, huge projects, but again, sometimes we do work with small businesses that they need our assistance and their bankers do. So 2 examples of an actual restaurant and a salon where 2 different types of EDA programs help close the deal. In both cases, looks like we did a refinance. And at this point, up until about 3 or 4 years ago, EDA never did refinancing, but we do refinancing existing debt. So if you're looking to bring a new bank on board, or looking to maybe decrease your debt service, improve your cash flow, because our rates are usually below market in a lot of cases, we can refinance existing debt to help your company move forward. Now, in the news recently, you probably read a lot of bigger projects coming to Camden, and I'll get into a local project at the end, local to Atlantic County that tapped into this program. But The Economic Opportunity Act was signed into law about 2 falls ago, I believe, and it allows for a consolidation of essentially 5 different programs EDA once housed that were benefit programs to developers or to manufacturers, office companies, technology companies. Instead of having 5 different programs, we consolidated into 2 programs. And we have the Grow New Jersey program, and we have the ERG, otherwise known as ERG. The difference between the 2, generally speaking, is that the ERG is more designed towards retail-based projects. I'll explain that in a couple seconds. Whereas Grow is designed more for your office companies, your technology companies, your manufacturers. The end users are going to be permanently there in a building, in a city, in a location. Now, the way it works is, depending upon your location, municipality you're in, you start at a baseline credit. Now in Lake City, it's $5,000 per job, and it allows you to go up to more maximums in certain municipalities. But depending upon what you're doing in that location, if you're a manufacturer, you get more money if you spend more money. As far as your capital investment's concerned, your build out of your building, your equipment purchases, what have you. So very quickly, depending upon where you're located, you can go from $5,000 to $10,000, or even $15,000 per job per year in the form of a tax credit to try and attract companies to either retain employees or to have new employees created on the site. The way the ERG works is, depending upon location again, you get a higher bump. In Lake City, you currently get 40%, whereas in the previous version of this bill, you got 30%. And in the old ERG, you got 20%. So it's gone up over the last couple of years from a 20% max to a 40% max. So what that means is that depending upon the project itself, the EDA has an underwriting department. We underwrite every project, whether it's a Grow or an ERG. We look at what the actual return is for an investor or developer. The EDA doesn't want to ever try to enrich someone to the point of not really needing our incentives. The point of the incentives are to be there to help bring the project to fruition. So we run an analysis, and I'm going to show on a slide at the end where technically a project was eligible for 40%, but they got less because the economics didn't work in terms of the return would have been too great. EDA thought we would over-enriching the actual project. Now again, there were recent changes to the original Economic Opportunity Act. These were just signed into law back in I guess November of this past year, and essentially created Lake City. They gave it the Garden State Growth Zone designation, which is what Camden has. So if you read the press, you'll see a lot of big deals coming into Camden. It's because other designations of Garden State Growth Zone, there's a lot of money on the table in terms of incentives. They qualify for a lot more in terms of the threshold, and they're a lot more generous as far as retained jobs are concerned as well. So the actual designation of the Garden State Growth Zone for Lake City is important in terms of trying to get certain types of companies into the city because of the actual dollar amounts have increased to a larger threshold. And this is some examples as far as what the calculation is now in terms of the actual program. Up to $15 million per employee per year, not to exceed $35 million per year. So essentially over a 10-year period, you got a $350 million tax incentive to bring a large company into the fold to incentivize that move here. One of the things the EDA does run on all of our incentives is a net benefit test. Essentially the EDA wants to make sure that, and the state wants to make sure that, sure, we're giving a company $300 million to come here, but what does that mean to the state over a certain period of time? Most municipalities only have 20 years to try to actually see what that net benefit's going to look like, but in Atlantic City you can get up to 35 years to take a look at what the numbers extrapolated over that time look like as far as a net benefit to the state and the surrounding area. So it makes it easier to get that net benefit test. If you can't meet the net benefit test, the EDA will reduce your award to fall in line with the net benefit test. It's important that you go from 20 to 35 because it's an easier hurdle to reach. Now, you'll see the word retained underlined. It's important because a lot of the companies we work with are companies already local to New Jersey that are looking to grow, invest in New Jersey, and traditionally if you have a retained job, you get half the credit as a new job. So it's important in that Garden State Growth Zone designation that you get full credit for retained jobs because it essentially doubles the value of your retained employee. So we don't want to just have to chase companies outside of New Jersey. We want to try to keep companies that are already here looking to grow, creating new jobs, local economies, to stay here and invest for a long period of time. So the retained job aspect of that designation is very important. Again, that's specific to Atlantic City. Again, I mentioned it real quickly that the ERG went from 30% to 40% in Atlantic City with the new legislation just a couple months ago. And one difference also is this 85% you see here. And ERGs throughout the state, traditionally speaking, how you get repaid is you get repaid through incremental sales tax that are generated on the site. In most municipalities, you only get 75% in each year returned to you as a developer. In Atlantic City, you get 85%, so it also ups that amount as well. So you can get repaid quicker. And the way the ERG program works, I probably didn't explain this, but as far as the calculation, if you have a $100 million project, you get approved for $40 million, you have 20 years to recoup that $40 million by the sales tax generated, or other taxes generated on site. Hotel occupancy tax is one of them. Other taxes generated on site that allow you to be repaid at 40%. So it's important that jump from 75 to 85 because you collect more on an annual basis back in your pocket. I alluded to a local project. This is in Galloway. This is Barrett. This company essentially makes vinyl, wood, aluminum products that you'll see for sale at places like Home Depot, Lowe's, and they are a Canadian-based company. They have a local affiliation with a smaller company in Millville currently, and this company's been, for the last year or two, been kicking around trying to figure out if they want to invest $30 million into a new plant in South Jersey or do it in another state because it was more expensive to do it in South Jersey, New Jersey alone. So with the changes of the legislation, one of the important things is that we used to have this thing called a mega project. The mega project was 250 jobs plus $20 million capital spend, which had to be within 15 miles of the port districts. So you had Camden Port, Paulsboro Port. If you weren't within 15 miles of that, you could never qualify for a mega project. So all the actual possible big projects that are sitting east of that radius wouldn't qualify for mega project status. And what mega project status does is it allows a tax credit to be created that starts at $5,000 in what we would normally consider a distressed area. Galloway is not a distressed area, so the actual $5,000 designation is important as far as mega project status is concerned, because all of a sudden you have a project in Galloway that's almost treated like it's in Pleasantville or Atlantic City, whereas before, under the old legislation, the calculation would probably be maybe a 10th or 20% of that award amount you see there on an annual basis because of how it's calculated and how it be captured. So there are a lot of nuances to the actual program, but one of them, the important caveats to the new legislation is that if you can get into a mega project status, it can increase your incentive probably by 80% or so compared to the old legislation. So it's important that the legislation changed and allowed Barrett to fit into that niche. Otherwise, they wouldn't have done the deal here. They wouldn't have spent $30 million in South Jersey to create 71 jobs in the manufacturing industry. It just wasn't going to happen. So that's one of the examples that we have under the new legislation that allows a company that normally would locate in Atlantic County, because they wouldn't have qualified for the incentives. They basically got incentives that almost are similar to what you would get in Camden or Atlantic City, but they're getting it in Galloway instead because the legislation changes. Last slide I have is, this is an example of an ERG that was done. It wasn't my project, but as you can see, it had project costs of $35 million, but they were only awarded roughly $5 million, which is only 14.5% of eligible project costs. And you'll see a footnote at the bottom that indicates why. It's because essentially when the EDA ran the net benefit, the return on investment for the developer, that we felt that the 14.5% was enough to bring it to market. We didn't want to give them 40% because at that point it had been over-enriching the developer to bring it to market. So you're not always going to see the full 40% projects, but we start at that point and we'll whittle it down if we feel it's necessary or our numbers dictate that. But this is an example of how an ERG was implemented into a project to help it come to market and get over the hump. That's all I have for now. I'll be around afterwards, and we're going to have a Q&A, I think, but even afterwards, if you have specific projects you want to talk about, please grab me. We can talk real quick. I can set up a meeting in the next couple of weeks to sit down and talk specifics. But again, there are a lot of nuances to the program, especially with the new changes that happened a couple of months ago. But as you can see, and as you've read about some projects in Camden, there's a lot of money at stake. You have to get to me first. Don't make any real estate decisions or any type of financing decisions until you talk to the EDA first. And I'll explain that, one-on-one, why that is, but it's important to talk to me first before you actually start making decisions on a real estate investment. And with that, I'm going to bring Chris Murphy with the Department of Labor.
Hi, thanks so much. It's a pleasure to be headlining this event. These guys warmed me up. But also, following Justin Kenyon in the EVA, it's almost like going on stage after Bruce Springsteen or something. Talks about $30 million grants. But mine are cash, so we have that going for us. I'm going to start off by talking about probably our most widely sought after incentive, which is, it's called Skills for Jersey. It's a customized training grant. The grant is to train new or current employees. There's a cap of $1,000 per employee and currently a cap of $100,000 per company. Lauren had mentioned before Amazon.com coming to New Jersey. Amazon didn't take advantage of any of the state programs except for this one. We've trained 1,500 people at the Amazon facility in Robbinsville. It's been a great success, and we continue to train more and more people every year. Just one note on this. The next submission process for the final grant opportunity this year is March 5th. There has to be a letter of intent into our office by March 5th, and then approvals later in the month. If you don't meet that, we could certainly get you in at the beginning of the next fiscal year, which is in July. You can work with me directly, and we can set you up. It does take a little bit of work on your end. You do have to write the grant, but it's a rather simple process compared to some of the other state grants and incentives. The next grant I want to talk about is Opportunity for Jersey, or Opportunity for Jersey grant. Is a grant for companies that have a specific hiring need. It could be either one company or a group of companies who partners up with a post-secondary institution like the community college here to create training programs for those specific skill sets. As an example, Justin was talking a bit about Camden. We've worked a bunch with the city of Camden as they've attracted business to the area. The city of Camden came to us and said, we have 3 companies who want to hire city residents. We'd like to create a training program that can help get these people these jobs. These are relatively low to no skill positions. So we teamed up with the community college in Camden, created a work readiness training program. So this first round of training, we'll be training 20 people. The training starts this month. There'll be financial literacy training, customer service training. It's a 2-week program. The job seekers will come out of that program and go into the positions at these 3 companies. So if your company or somebody in your district or in your municipality, if you're an elected official, has a training need, we can certainly help make the connection with the community college and our talent networks, which I'll talk about a little bit later. So those are two of our occupational training grants. The next one I'll talk about is a grant called Recovery for Jersey, and I truly feel if you're a company in New Jersey, or if you know somebody that owns a company, if you're not looking at this program, you're most likely leaving some money on the table. The Recovery for Jersey grant is a 50% wage reimbursement for a new hire up to $10,000. The only caveat is that the job seeker either has to be currently collecting unemployment or have exhausted their unemployment within the last 52 weeks, and the person must be paid $10 an hour or more. There's a business representative. We have 24 business representatives throughout the state. Since we're in Atlantic County, most of you will be dealing with a woman by the name of Elaine Williams. That some of you may know her. I've told every company I've ever met with, before you hire anyone, before that person starts, you should be contacting Elaine Williams or contacting me to get you in touch with the right person, and having us screen that person to make sure that don't qualify for this program. You can't come to us on Wednesday and say, hey, I started Joe Smith on Monday, can we get this grant? It can't be applied retroactively. So it's important that we're ahead of the curve here. Make sure you have the right contacts. Like I said, this could be $10,000 left on the table, and it's $10,000 cash grant, so you're receiving a check every month. Very simple process each month, payroll submission, and a short evaluation for the new hire. The next grant I'll talk about is the Work First on the Job Training Program. Much like Recovery for Jersey, this grant is a 50% wage reimbursement for somebody coming off of one of our public assistance programs, so GA, SNAP, TANF. If you're hiring somebody that comes off of one of those programs, it's important that you contact me. We'll get you in touch with your contract writer in this county and set up this program. Again, money that could be in your pocket to help train this person, get them up to speed, could be left on the table. So these are two cash grants, on-the-job training grants that you should be taking advantage of. We do have some tax credit stuff. The one program I'll talk about is the Work Opportunity Tax Credit, the WOTC. This is for hiring people with barriers to entry into the workforce. So certain veterans, persons with disabilities, again, food stamp recipients, ex-felons. This grant is, this tax credit is up to $4,800. It's a relatively simple process as far as seeing if someone qualifies for it. There's a website on the bottom. If you're not writing it down, you can certainly go to our website, jobs4jersey.com, jobs4jersey.com. All of these incentives are on there, and we have about 15 incentives. I'm not going to go into all of them today, but they're all listed on our website. So I wanted to talk a little bit about, let's see, look at that popping up. I didn't make this slide, but it seems like somebody has some. Okay, there we go. Anyway, technology. Some of our workforce development tools. Like I said, we have talent networks throughout the state. These talent networks are the 7 industries that comprise 1/3 of the jobs in the state and make up 2/3 of the wages. As you can see, advanced manufacturing, financial services, healthcare, life sciences, retail, hospitality, and tourism. There's actually one in the north and the south, so the Southern Talent Network pretty much focuses mainly on Atlantic City. Technology and entrepreneurship, transportation, logistics, and distribution. These talent networks help team up with post-secondary college institutions and other workforce professionals help come up with training programs that can help you tailor programs to your needs. So we encourage you to explore that. And the last slide I'll talk about before we go into questions and answers, because I know everyone probably has a ton of questions for us, is our Office of Research and Information. We use this a lot for Choose New Jersey. One of our state partners, the Business Action Center and EDA, also reaches out to us quite often to come up with information. Through this office, we can provide data on occupational employment statistics, industry employment projections, occupational employment projections, and some census data. If you have a question about how much certain people are being paid in your industry, in your area, we can certainly come up with that. Employers reach out to us quite often and say, we can't find anyone that's qualified for this position. Well, you might be paying well below market rate and just don't know it, so you're not opening yourself up to some of the better candidates. This is a tool that I think you and whether it's your constituents or other colleagues will find very useful. So that's pretty much it for me. If you have any questions, I can certainly answer them during the question and answer session, or feel free, please, to come to me and I'll give you my business card. You can reach out to me directly. I give out my cell phone number as well, so you can reach me on the weekends whenever you need to call me. And believe me, I do take those calls and spend a lot of time on that phone. So thank you so much. Here's our information, and we'll wait for some questions and answers.
Thank you very much. I'm sure we got some questions and answers. First of all, I know there's a lot of information. If you signed in and gave me your email address, I'm going to push out the whole PowerPoint to your email. The second is, if you're confused by any of this, come to me. I'll be more than happy to set up the meetings that need to be set up so that we can make sense of it if you have projects or developments that you would like to look into. Okay, good. Hey, do you have any questions? Oh, it's got to be one.
This question is for Chris. The Grow New Jersey program, what is the total fund for it?
The Grow New Jersey would be actually for Justin. The EDA program?
Yes.
Grow New Jersey, that's for Justin.
Okay, sorry.
What's the question?
What is the total size of the fund for?
It's not limited in terms of the fund. It's not Our previous programs that we had for incentives were via appropriations on an annual basis. There's no appropriations required for this program. That's because it's a tax credit versus cash coming from Treasury.
Good morning. My name is John Armato, Township Committee, Buena Vista Township. We attended the other conference that was here a couple weeks ago. I asked this question, and I'm going to ask the question again. Does anyone in Trenton actually know what Pinelands does to communities like Buena Vista Township? The restrictions. It's nice to sit here and see all the infrastructure and the roadways and everything. Does anybody actually realize the stranglehold that Pinelands has on our community? Thank you. It's for anybody.
Anybody, as much as the, I guess, the state agencies or in the administration? I'm not quite sure how to answer that question. The only thing is, I know that it is very restrictive. I know we deal with this at the Highlands. Also, you know, any of those sort of regional planning issues are a problem, or an issue for us too, I should say. So we understand exactly what you're saying. It's out of my control to affect any sort of change with that.
Atlantic City is great, and it gets all the attention. But Atlantic City has an effect on our town. And this is the way it was answered the last time we were here. We understand, but there's nothing that we can do about it.
I know, and you know what, that's actually a good point. My office had a meeting with Galloway 2 or 3 weeks ago, and they're dealing with the fallout from Atlantic City, that a lot of the folks who live there have lost jobs, so it's a ripple effect on the surrounding towns. So we do understand that. My office is trying to help, and I mentioned the 250,000 square foot benchmark. We're not held to that. We can help with any property or any sort of redevelopment property that you may have, even if it's below that. So we are trying to help the towns around Atlantic City who fall outside of some of the incentives, and that's what my office can do. I mean, we deal with the physical development, you know, Justin and Chris deal with maybe more of the incentive type things, but that's what we can do. And we're bound by the rules just the way everybody else is, but we can, you know, help to the extent that we can. And dealing with the agencies, DEP and DOT and DCA and all of that, we can sometimes resolve impediments to development or redevelopment right there on the spot. But you're right, I mean, Pinelands, the Highlands, they're very restrictive. And you know, that's almost another conversation to have to revisit those laws and maybe adjust them to make them not so restrictive.
Yes, good morning. My question is to Chris. My name is Joe Panalone. I'm with the Atlantic County Utilities Authority. Are any of the programs that you spoke about eligible for government employees?
That's a very good question. In my time, you know, I'm going to have to get back to you on that, and I'm sorry to sidestep it, but I've never dealt with a situation where I've written or a grant for government employees. I believe the answer is going to be that it does not, government employees do not qualify for this because we're using tax dollars to fund these programs, which also fund government employees. So I believe the answer is yes, or is no, and I believe I encountered that question about 3 years ago, and that was the answer I came up with, but certainly let's connect after and I'll get you a definite answer in writing by tomorrow.
Chris Sayre, Absecon City Council President. I have a comment, but before I make it, I want to ask a question to make sure my comment is in the right ballpark. Would one of you redefine what the acronym ERG stands for?
It's the Economic Redevelopment Growth Grant. So it basically
Is it grant or growth?
it's a grant. It's growth. It's actually has 2 G's in it, but we shortened it to just one.
Yeah. So here's my comment. By the way, I appreciate the presentations, and they were very good, and I'm glad to hear that we're going to get a copy, Max, so we can do our homework.
but when you look at small business, they typically don't have much money. So yes, they need loans, but we know what the word loan means. You got to pay it back. Low interest loans. The suggestion or comment is to make it a lot less confusing for the common man. It would be good if you guys use the right words when you define your programs. I've worked for the federal government my whole life. I just looked it up on Wikipedia. The word grant means equivalent to gift, non-repayable. So I got all energized about the ERC program when I heard about it the first time because I heard the word grant. And the grant means a small business with no money or very little money is going to be given some cash, and the only one that was cash was the last presenter who said that himself. So you must have acknowledged even in there, yeah, you're different than the rest of the programs. A grant is something you don't repay. So to dangle these words in these state programs that you're giving grants, when in fact they are very good programs that give tax incentives, people can figure that out. You know, I'm going to give you $10 million or $1 million, or for a small business, $10,000 worth of forgiveness of state New Jersey tax. People can figure that out, fellas. But when you tell people that you're going to give them a grant, and then you find out it's not a grant, it's confusing. I'm somewhat educated, and it was confusing to me.
Well, the ERC program is confusing in general. It's a difficult program to get through because of sometimes the dollar we're talking about. But the ERC program is, you get cash back from the state.
You don't get it up front. You get it as a credit.
That's true, but New Jersey, all the incentives in New Jersey we do not forward incentive our programs. For instance, the Rebel project originally got a $250 million ERC. So they didn't get a dollar from the state. How would the state look right now today if we'd given them $250 million for that project? It would look terrible. It's not even worth $100 million apparently right now. So,
But at the end of the day, we're playing semantics now. You granted them permission not to pay all the tax.
no, the ERG is you get a reimbursement of taxes generated on site that are incrementally increased from what was previously on site. So if I have an old mall that it's been vacant for 20 years, and someone wants to come in and spend $50 million to bring it back up to a modern facility, bring new tenants in, create new jobs, create new taxes on site, you can technically, every year, to exhaust up to that 40% amount if you're in Atlantic City, or 30% if you're in a municipality, you can get that money reimbursed back to you as a developer. It doesn't work for small businesses. I will be 100% honest with you. That's a developer-based project.
After the fact, after the tax has been collected, you get it back. That doesn't help someone build a new business from scratch.
Well, we've had a lot of developers that have taken advantage of the program. So
It's a great program, but it's not a grant. A grant gives someone who's got a small business the impression they're going to get some money up front to help them construct, hire, refurbish.
We've never given the impression that the ERG grant is for a small business, and it's not designed that way. The Grow New Jersey program, it is a tax credit, but it's a saleable tax credit. So you can't use the tax credit to offset your taxes. You can sell it and turn it into cash. Which most 90% of our companies that we've approved for the Grow program, that's what they're doing. But New Jersey wants the companies to invest before we're going to give them the actual dollars in the back end.
I just want to, I get that, your question a lot. And no program for the 15 years I've been involved gives you a cash grant up front for you to start a business or run a business. There are guys that sell books that tell you that you can get grants from the government, and when you buy the book, you get my phone number. The truth is, all grants that I've ever seen have always been performance-based. The company has to do something in order to get the grant. So they're awarded, they're given the grant, but they have to create the job. They have to hire the person and keep them on the books. I am not aware of any grant in federal or state government that has ever given people money up front. If you want to get your oil tank removed, you have to get the oil tank removed, and then the state then helps pay the bill. But they don't give you the money up front. It's always based on the business to perform, and that's what and prove that they're going to fulfill their side of the bargain in order to receive any kind of a grant funding. So I hear that frustration a lot working with small businesses. I want to start a small business, I don't have any money, aren't there any grants available? And frankly, we used to publish a book, and the headline was, "There is no free money." It just doesn't exist. There are 250,000 businesses in the state of New Jersey. If we gave them all $10,000 in grant funding, that would be a budget buster. So it just doesn't happen that way. It's always based on the performance of the business meeting some sort of obligation in order to earn the grant that comes later.
And just to clarify my points with the cash grants offered to the Department of Labor, the training has to take place before there's any reimbursement. So there's no $10,000 check written up front. On a monthly basis, you're reimbursed for the training that has taken place. Like I did say, the great thing about our program is that it is a cash grant and you are receiving a check on a monthly basis. However, that training has to be taking place, and we only pay for training that has taken place. That's just the simple fact.
I've never heard of, grants do not finance projects. That's a great misunderstanding that people have. They are, you have to come up with the financing up front. You may get a grant later to help reduce the cost of that project and your cost of money because you get the grant. And so it plays into your overall financials plan. But you don't get the money up front so that you can accomplish something. You have to finance it yourself and then take advantage of the grant later by getting reimbursement. That's the way every grant program that I've ever seen from a government agency has always worked.
Including the federal government.
As far as I know, I've never heard of a federal government program that will give you up money up front for a business, upfront money. Even, for example, well, I'm talking about businesses, but even with the Sandy program, you had to have the bills to show that the work was done before they would actually write you the check. So that's just the way grant programs work. They're never designed to be, and frankly, it's because the opportunity is there to get the money and then not perform on your end. So they don't do that.
One other unrelated question that I heard at the Atlantic City meeting a few months ago that didn't come up as a specific this morning. Could one of you, if possible, talk about the incentive, the extra availability of grants, whatever you want to call them, related to railroad train station opportunities? Because it was brought up that there are certain programs that if you have your proximity to a rail station, et cetera, would enhance your ability to get something.
Correct. On the Grow New Jersey program, you get the $2,000 per employee per job per year bonus if you're within a half a mile of a transit hub station. So it could be a railroad station, it could be a bus station. There is a specific bus terminal list on our website that dictates what that means. It's on every bus stop in the entire state, but there is a significant bonus that can be attached to every job in that municipality, in Atlantic City specifically, and in Pleasantville too, that allows you to get a bonus of up to $2,000 per year per job if you're within that half-mile radius of transportation hub.
Bob Marshall from the Greater Atlantic City Chamber. Just a question, and thank you very much for coming down. And I know your organizations have been down here a lot, helping the county and helping Atlantic City. The question would be, a development such as Stockton Showboat, will they be able to qualify for Grow New Jersey funding? And can you help give me some guidance on that?
To date, I have not had discussions with them. It's possible someone on the higher level EDA has.
Okay.
Specifically speaking, we don't normally assist universities with incentive programs. If they have some kind of component attached to it that might be outside of their specific scope, if they have a lease signed with a tenant or with an operator, then at that point we could probably help them in terms of the GROW program is concerned. But if Stockton were to say we're going to create so many jobs, we probably couldn't help them because there is one provision in the Grow New Jersey program, which is a material factor provision. What that means is that without these incentives, you wouldn't do the project in this location. So it's hard for universities that are kind of anchored, stuck in certain locations to say, I can do this project in Pennsylvania. It's kind of hard to get over that hump, but you might have at least an end user that might be eligible in that space at Showboat, but I have not had conversations with them I've read, the newspaper clippings with what's happening there, but I have not had specific conversations with them. Again, it's possible that someone on a higher level EDA has because of the size of the project. But we can talk afterwards if you want to.
I have another question. I have not seen anything here that provides R&D tax credits or intellectual property incentives, maybe even commercialization incentives by the state. Are there any that we're not aware of, or that they have not been presented here today?
EDA does have we have a technology department that can handle really low interest dollars for technology startup companies, but we also have an NOL program, which is a tax credit that companies can use that have losses. They can sell essentially the losses on the tax credit side. So we can talk about that. I can get you information about that specifically. It's not my arena, it's not my area, but we do have a department at EDA that does handle essentially startup technology companies that somehow have through the NOL program.
Okay.
Okay, well, this side hasn't said anything, so you're being absolutely slaughtered by the other side. One person, just to try to even it out? Okay. One more time. Oh, there we go. Yeah, Rich, of course.
It's only a matter of time. The question is regarding retention of companies. You were talking more about attracting new businesses. With the retention, do they have to demonstrate that they're actually intending on leaving the state in order to be able to preserve them or get some incentive packages?
Correct. That was my, I was speaking about the material factor provision, and that's why I said in my presentation, don't go and buy a building before you talk to us first, because if you buy a building, it looks like you're going to be staying, or if you buy new equipment and you're already expanding and renovating your building, it looks like you're staying and doing that anyway. So the idea is that the state's not going to incentivize you just to stay here and grow, but you have to make the argument that you could possibly move these jobs elsewhere outside of the state. So we do require that as part of our actual analysis. So every grow you see approved at EDA has made that demonstration, has made that argument that they could possibly leave the state, go to another state, do these operations in that state for much cheaper. So that's the material factor provision that is required in the grow program. So they do have to prove that it's possible that these jobs could be relocated to a different state.
Any alibis? Once, twice, 3 times. Okay, Lauren and your team, thank you very much for being here today. If you could just maybe spend a few minutes afterwards in case people want to come up and talk to you. Okay, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Ladies and gentlemen, it's great to be able to have all these professionals come down today. If you've got some time and you would like to talk to them, please take advantage of it. Once again, if you have signed in or you can still sign in, we've got Lisa manning the counter out there. Please do so. Please write your email address clearly. I will make sure that everybody who I've got an email address on, that we push out this PowerPoint. Additionally, if you have any questions whatsoever, that's what my job is to help out. Justin, I probably call once, twice a week, so he and I have got a really good phone relationship going here, and I'd be more than happy to keep on engaging him for anybody who comes forward and says they want to look at what possible incentives are there for doing a project or doing a development. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming in the snow, and please drive very carefully on the way out.